Thank you for joining us to our second Adobe Commerce Champion Office Hours meeting for the EMEA region. Today our topic is technical deep dive for technical integrations, and we were thinking of actually continuing where we left off the last time. Last time we showed you around ACCS and ACO, so today we were thinking if it's a good idea to actually continue there with ACO. And before I introduce the topic, just a short house rules, like the same like last time and any other user group from Adobe. This session will be recorded. If you want to be in the recording, you can show yourself on the video screen or even unmute you if you want. If not, it's also fine. You can rewatch it on the Adobe User Group YouTube channel if they uploaded it. And yeah, at the end there is a survey. And before you leave, help us if you give us some feedback there. Also, some more rules is that no self-promotion is allowed. And also do not contact, please, the people outside of this meeting without their consent. And also keep this information confidential if someone is sharing some information from their own. Okay, we did this introduction here, so now let's introduce the topic which we are talking of today. And at the end, we have some time reserved for you. If there are any questions, you can ask us any question you want. And also make sure, if you haven't done so, in the user group channel that you click here on the join button, so that you will receive future emails and notifications about any future events. Today, like last time, I'm joined by my fellow champions, Christian and Alex. They're waving, nice. Also, those sessions are organized by Ray for the US region, Namrata for the APAC region, and me for the EMEA region, and with the help of Daniela from the Commerce Championship. And also just to make give you a small hint, there's also currently the registration open for the new class, for the next class of the Commerce Champions. So if you're interested, I think we can share the link somewhere in the meeting, maybe Christian or Alex. You can register there and apply for the next class for the Commerce Championships, which starts at somewhere around October, November this year and up to the next year. All right, so enough of the introduction talk. Let's start with our topic. Today, we kick off from ACO again. Just a little reminder for everybody who is maybe new or missed the last session where we talked about ACO. Just a little architecture diagram. ACO is intended to be put on any third-party commerce system. You can, of course, use it for your own existing on-prem or cloud system, right? So if you already have a commerce instance, you can use it additionally, but you can also use it for any other commerce system like, I don't know, Shopify, SAP Commerce, or whatever is out there. And what it brings to you is a powerful catalog service. On top of it, merchandising services like the product discovery, so live search and product recommendations. They are all based AI, AI, of course. And you get a lightning fast storefront powered by Edge Delivery Services where you can build your content, and with the help of the commerce drop-ins, you can build your storefront. All right, this is where we have left off. Last time we showed you how we use the catalog service, how we can get data from the catalog service, so how we consume the data, like the product data, and how we build the storefront. And this time we also see the other way around, how we actually can ingest data into these catalog services. Again, like how is it intended to work? We have on top of here our catalog service where all the data comes in. So this is the part which we focus today on, the ingestion path here, where we import any data. And it's split up into three entities more or less. So they are locales policies, which are kind of rules based on product attributes, and there you have different price books. And with the combination of all of them, you can then attach it to different sales channels. And this is highly flexible, very dynamic, and whenever you make changes there, this will be done in real time and visible in real time on the front end. Another thing when we're speaking of integration is API orchestration, and there's a tool which is part of the Adobe App Builder landscape, which is called API Mesh. You see it here, right? So when the front end needs data, and we are speaking of a service-oriented architecture or composable architecture, then we need some endpoint where the front end actually gets the data, because in terms of the front end, it doesn't matter where it gets the data from. So if you think of different data sources in the backend, which are orchestrated, the front end actually doesn't care if the product data comes from a PIM, from an ERP, from a catalog service, or wherever. It just has one endpoint, which you see here, which is the API mesh. And with the help of this API mesh, you are quite flexible, because it's a simple configuration file, so it's actually low code, where you configure the different sources with different data formats. And of course, there's backwards incompatibility, meaning that you can exchange any service here in the backend without actually breaking anything, because you can still have the same interface for the front end here, right? And some more detailed functionality of API Mesh would be, for example, hooks. So where you are able to execute any hooks before or after some request. This is ideal for authentication, for example, or if you need to validate any request data. You can inject your own JavaScript where you can modify or transform the data itself. And then you have standard transformation tools like renaming, prefix something. So you can actually rebuild, not completely free, but you have some basic tools where you can rebuild those interfaces of those backend services so that you can adjust it for the front end accordingly. Another thing when speaking of integrations is, of course, the Commerce Integration Starter Kit, which is part of every app builder integration. So I mean, you do not have to use it, but I highly recommend that you use it. Adobe has released 2 of them. One is Commerce Integration Starter Kit, which is perfect for integrating any backend system like an ERP system. And then there's the Checkout Integration Starter Kit, where you can extend the checkout in the commerce system with any PSP or tax service or shipment service and so on. And the magic behind those integration starter kits are actually that it gives you a blueprint, meaning you have in any transformation step, you have some kind of pipeline, which you see here, which consists of different steps like pre-validation, transformation, sending, and then doing some stuff after this. And it gives you already a blueprint, and you just have to implement the last mile, meaning that you, for example, just have to implement the data transformation between this system and this system. And maybe for sending, you just have to implement some API of the system, for example, right? And it's highly flexible, and of course, it's the basic of out-of-process extensibility, meaning that the integration just focuses on APIs. There is no PHP code running on this side, and you do not have to deploy anything on this ERP side, for example. It just runs in the cloud here in the middle on the runtime environment and talks via API to both systems. And when speaking of service-oriented architecture, there is also the necessity that we can somehow debug or look into what is actually happening there. And for this, all app builder integrations bring open telemetry with it, meaning it's an open standard, right, where you can have logs, metrics, and traces And for example, you can use New Relic, for example, Grafana, and build your own dashboards where you can insert those logs and telemetry data and actually see what is happening inside of your integration. So if something breaks, you can most certainly see it there. And also, this is a screenshot from the commerce system in the cloud itself, where you can also register logs, metrics, and traces to be sent to your New Relic instance, for example, so you can actually see what is happening inside of your ACCS instance system, right? Because here as well, we do not have any access. It's running in the cloud. We do not have an SSH or a console access to it, so we don't know what is happening if something goes wrong. So it sends to us any telemetry data which we register here. Yeah, that's it for the introduction talk to integrations. So now let's head over to Christian, because he prepared some demo for us, and after that, Alex as well.
So, hello. So I will just share my screen. So you should see now my web browser. Last time we showed the merchandising API, where you can consume data of ASIO. And today we show the different parts. So the stuff that has to be made before you can consume, so ingest the data. And if you want to do that by your own, it's important that you have the right credentials. That's why I start with showing how you can set up the credentials to access the API. And I thought it's a good idea to show that in context of the documentation. That's the entry point where you can start. It's always developer.adobe.com/commerce, and then you are in the on the right starting position to find the information you need. And so as we are developers, we switch then here to the developers tab, then you find the aggregated information about all the development stuff. In our case, we investigate the APIs, and in this case, it's in part of the merchandising services. If we follow the link here, we find our two APIs, the merchandising API to consume the data, and today we look on data ingestion API that's here. Just click that. And on the left side, the important part is API reference. So it's now loading. I'll show that later on. First thing is API is specification here is designed for human readability. So it means it's for humans, so you can see all the available requests, and it's also interactive. So there's a way to try everything here. That's not what we are doing now, but it's interesting. If you want, you can do that right in the documentation. To start, we need an API key, and gladfully, Adobe made us this really easy. So there's this on the top. If you are logged in, like me now, you have the tool here. It's a wizard embedded in the documentation where you can create the credentials. I already did that. That's why you see here on the right side my already created credential setup. But if you start from scratch, you should click here the Create New Credential button. What happens then is the wizard will create an app builder project in the developer console and automatically register the right APIs and create the credentials there. If that is done, like in my case, you should see an app builder project in the developer console. So wait a second. That's what the wizard created. but then the API is registered. So in this case, it's the Adobe Commerce Optimizer Ingestion API. And if I click on the API, I see that there's an OAuth server-to-server credential created. And this credential here contains all the information we need to start the ingestion process. The API authentication works in with the OAuth 2 authentication flow with client credentials. That means you need these two values here. You need the client ID, that's a unique identifier that is created. And there is always a secret value. I will not show that, so that no one can pollute my sandbox. But in your case, you should click once here, then you see a secret, then you can copy and paste that secret. And the third part that is needed is here a scope. The scope is required if we fetch an access token. Then we ask for some data in the scopes. And it's important to have this Commerce ACO ingestion scope in our request. And we need the URL to the token endpoint where we can get a token. I have configured that here in my Bruno HTTP client. That's how it looks. If you wonder how can I start here, it's possible to import here a collection via URL. That's also working in other tools like Postman. To get that, you find that in the documentation page of the API here. That's this download link here. That's just a machine readable schema that can be imported. If we do that, it should look like in my client here, you see also available requests. So it's happened. And we need to set up here in the HTTP client our authentication setup. Here we copy and paste all the stuff we have in the credentials listed. So you need just this token URL to obtain a token. Then you paste in your client ID and the secret. And as well here our scope with the Commerce ACO ingestion scope included. If that is copy and pasted here, we can ask for a token, and then we get a token back, and this token will then be added to every request in our HTTP client in the HTTP header as authorization header with an BIRA prefix here and the access token appended. That's everything we need. So let's get an access token. It was fetched. It's now cached here in the tool. And now we can start with the ingestion process. First thing is we want to import products. It's an example from the documentation. It's just one product. Every endpoint is designed in a way that you can send batches of data. It's not designed to send one data. That's why you have always this array syntax here, where you can add several products and post several products at once for the data ingestion. In this example, there's one product here, and in the source you define your channel where you post your data to, and some standard attributes are here. If you have own attributes, like in my case, I have here some drones where I added some additional attributes, then this attributes has to be added here in the attributes section. Always in this syntax where you have a code and values, also designed to have multiple values, even if there's just one, paste this array. If you have own attributes, then you have first to set up the attributes in the attributes endpoint. is here in metadata, where you can post the standard attributes. If you skip that, then the ingestion endpoint will work, but ignore all your custom attributes. In my case, I have a special product group attribute added. That's not a standard attribute. That's created by me. And that's how it works. Just like everything is an array, paste your data there. Then you can define some additional metadata for the attribute, like should the attribute be filterable or sortable. It's like from Magento attributes. And then you're good to go. You can then just post your data. Here's an example. I created a red drone, and you see here I have added here my custom attribute with product groups and drones. It's just posted, and that's how fast it is. It's below 1 second for this product, but you can send more than one product, and it's even fast. And result is just this. It's accepted, so it's queued, and you get feedback how many items you sent it and will be processed. This takes maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Then it should show up in your ACO instance. There are also other things here, like you can add an attribute tree, can be cascaded. And everything here is designed as CRUD operation. So you can always create, update, or delete your data. So you can get rid of wrong data as well. That's for all the endpoints here. That's always post to create and a patch to update and a delete to delete. And products contain the master data of products. And prices and price books are also in relation to each other. So it means you have first to create a price book. Just this simple element here, get an ID, a name, and a currency. And then you can assign prices, also as batch, to a product. You just need the SKU, and then you reference the price book and set your price here. So it works. Let's do it. You see, it's same performance, below 1 second, but in this case I send it 20 items. To round that up, I said last time I showed this small demo where you can click in the front end. To fill the whole instance, I created a small integration, and it shows that. It's here. It's a low-code workflow that pushes the data from CSV files to the ACO instance. That's an example. So I've added some CSV files. One here contains the master data of products and the price in one row in the CSV file. So we can also test that here in the low-code tool. So you should see one item here. So it's a drone with the master data, and you see the price is here, like in a Magento instance. And what we do now is when we split this data, so we need just the price for the price update, and we first have to set up the product and ingest the product without the price. That's why we have these two subflows here. First thing is it's mapping some data, and then we have here our data prepared for in the structure ACO needs that. And now we can loop in batches. It's just for the showcase. You can send 20 items at once, but in my case, I want to show it's working with batches and 2 batches with 10 articles. So that's do everything at once. You see, it's already imported. Due to the fact that the API is just HTTP, you can add this or adopt this workflow in whatever you want. So choose the integration platform of your choice to import also information. Yeah, that's it. So if question later on or not right now?
So thanks, Christian. Just wanted to check, Alex, are you able to share the screen now?
Yes, now yes,
Yeah.
thanks.
It works? Okay.
Now looks good. I mean, at least I have a button. Let's give it a try.
All right.
Cool, then I'll take it over. Thanks a lot, Christian. And what I will show you today is then how to use the data you imported. And as my demo was based on data you dropped me sometime before, I hope you didn't break them now while running the import against the same environment. But then it's even more interesting, right? So, hope you see my screen now. You have to, I guess. Yes, yes, thumbnail, up, down. Good. So, yeah, so basically the second part of what Christian just told about is the way how to get data from the Adobe Commerce Optimizer and then use them in your instances. Because one of the main ideas of the Adobe Commerce Optimizer is still to be able to have the backend and database layer of all your product data, including the prices, and then be able to build your custom storefront around this data. And if it's standard Adobe Commerce world, it's Adobe Commerce as a backend system being used, and then it's Edge delivery services as the native store from Adobe is being set up. You could think, okay, how, for example, to get prices or how to get the product metadata to be delivered on your storefront. So for that, there is merchandising GraphQL API. So it's not ingestion API, it's the API how to get the data. And you can also find this documentation page or into the Adobe website, which you can query all metadata you literally posted before. It can be like an attributes, categories, products, prices, and so on. What I want to show today, I want to show one of the integrations, how to use the prices, which Christian just sent to the Adobe Commerce Optimizer, being displayed on your Adobe Commerce storefront, which is in initial setup, has nothing to do with Adobe Commerce Optimizer itself. And for that, I will use Adobe Builder, that what Florian talked about before when he made a demo, and then Adobe API Mesh, which allow us to build this integration or basically to modify the all APIs on the fly to be able to see the result of our work. What I will start from? I'll start from, first of all, I have Adobe Commerce set up. And as you see, I have here those products. Christian can recognize them. I hope there are no hard copyright and I can use them. And as you can see, there is a product's price set to 0 always. So what I just made, I just copied the product he has into the Adobe Commerce. But I didn't took the price, because in a lot of use cases, price can be, first of all, dynamic element. They can be updated from ERP systems. Hourly, minutely, we have a project when they update it on the fly, you never know which price you will get. So basically, you don't want to update them in Adobe Commerce, because as you saw the performance while uploading the data into the Adobe Commerce Optimizer, it's not something you can compare with performance of Adobe Commerce itself. So you could not upload so much data so often to Adobe Commerce with good performance. So I have here a set of the products. And then I have Edge delivery services as a storefront that just deliver these products. And in standard, it's using Adobe Commerce GraphQL endpoint. So what we want to do, we want to use now the prices from Adobe Commerce Optimizer. And for that, we are building the API mesh. So the API mesh allow us to literally merge two endpoints together. So in our case, we have our commerce, which is a standard Adobe Commerce API. And then we have Adobe Commerce Optimizer, which is our merchandising API, which I just showed you before on the documentation. And what API Mesh allows us to do for this particular use case is at first point, just merge them together. So we have a single entry point, and then depends on which query you're executing, the one or another source will be called. But for the storefront application, URL always the same and basically one and only URL. With one note, what I did here, I transformed the all optimizer queries to have prefixes to them because they're overlapping. So there are some queries which has exactly the same name between Adobe Commerce and Adobe Commerce Optimizer. So for the mesh is not going crazy, I just renamed optimizer ones to have a unique names. So at this moment, we only merge the endpoints. Now we want to go ahead to get the prices from Adobe Commerce Optimizer and display them on the storefront. You can imagine that it doesn't matter which storefront we now are talking about. It can be Edge Delivery Services, it can be your own storefront. They, in most cases, will rely on the GraphQL layer. And the GraphQL layer they built on is usually, if you're using standard Adobe Commerce storefronts, they rely on the standard Adobe Commerce GraphQL response. So when you have the product, then price, amount, final. So the standard and predefined schemas. So what we want to do now, we want to literally take Adobe Commerce Optimizer prices, inject them into the schema, and return to the storefront that we don't need to do any storefront customization. And this part in API Mesh, which allow us to do that, is to build the resolvers. The resolvers allow us to build a piece of JavaScript code which can modify the code as you want to. Basically, you can do whatever you want there with JavaScript, more or less, and then inject or replace the fields. And if you will open this optimizer, I have it here somewhere. Oh, not optimizer, the resolver. What are we doing? We literally, when we have a selection of the product, so when the simple product view is being requested from the Adobe Commerce, we fetching price from our optimizer product source. So we're fetching the prices from Adobe Commerce Optimizer instead of the standard ones, and then just returning by the schema. So that the standard Adobe Commerce has regular amount, and we're returning the values which we received from Adobe Commerce Optimizer instead. So we're not using Adobe Commerce prices. And after we will do it, wait. No, yes. So that's Edge Delivery Services with Christian's products. And as you see here, I have a prices. Let me refresh. Okay, it's just very fast. So just for understanding, I hit refresh there like 5 times. Just too fast. So as you can see here, the prices are not what you saw before in the Adobe Commerce system. So the old prices are delivered from the GraphQL by using API Mesh, then fetching Adobe Commerce Optimizer separately, and then render them here. I have here, so that's one example which I showed where I have 2 endpoints which we merged together. I especially prepared a little bit another use case for the same purpose. So we have still API Mesh configuration, but we have only one source, which is our Adobe Commerce. And we have the resolver. So compared to the previous one, where was it? We have only one source, which is the same as the first one here, and then only one resolver instead of merging the Adobe Commerce Optimizer one. Why I did it? Just for the sake of giving you the understanding that you literally, in the price resolvers, you can do, wait, give me a second, I clicked wrongly. Yeah. In a price resolver, you can literally do whatever you want. So you can fetch any other third-party system. You can fetch, you can fetch any third-party system. Yeah, so you can fetch prices from outside. You can, I don't know, hard code them here as the JSON, and they still will be delivered. So idea of this one If you don't have the source, which you can use just to use a resolver to replace one field with another field or make additional calls, you can just make an API call JavaScript fetch function, fetch price from whatever source you want. In this case, it still uses the same Adobe Commerce Optimizer, but just as a direct URL call, and then do the same here by delivering the prices. And you will get exactly the same result. Now, what we did, we changed how the GraphQL return API request to the storefront. One important point, you could directly imagine that if I can change the GraphQL input, why cannot I manipulate the prices and just make all those products equal to 0 if I will open my network tab in my browser and will hijack the response I'm receiving from the mesh? Correct. For that, you have to be able to control which price is literally added to the shopping cart, because that always have to be done on a backend side where user has no influence and has no access to, so he could not do anything with it. For that, you would need to have an Adobe App Builder as the source of the backend action provider, so which is not facing the customer, which is not facing the internet, and you need to be authorized to do it. To be able to do it, you can do it within Adobe Commerce system. I have here, if you go to the system, you'll have here this webhook section. It's out of the box available pre-installed only on Adobe Commerce as a cloud service, so the SaaS environment. If you're working with a PaaS environment, you need to install the webhook module, and then we make the same configuration, but with XLS files. So it's not something which you have UI if you're working with PaaS, and you need to work with XLS, but it looks literally the same. You can just imagine that's all an XML text, which you put an XML file, deploy, and then you have it working. So what are we doing? We go in here to, one more time, to webhook subscription. We have our subscription here already, but you can just add a new one. And if I will edit the subscription, I'm subscribing to the webhook observer sales code item set product, which executed when you add product to the shopping cart or when you refresh in the shopping cart. Quite important because I found it out quite recently. And then what is most important part is to define the URL which you called. It's in a builder action, which I deployed and which delivered me the prices. I'll show you what is it doing just in a minute. It's a required one. It's active one. Which method has been used? Then we have also here the authorization layer. So then this application is allowed to authorize your builder and get this action being executed to receive the prices. And then we have a fields which we send in from Commerce to the builder action itself. So we need product name. Literally, we don't need product name. I just did it for sake of test. But we need SKU, I would say, as an only required parameter for this use case. And then we can go to our resolver. Yes. So then what's happening when the Adobe Commerce adding product to the shopping cart, it's executing this action of Adobe Builder and then waiting for response. And we're doing here exactly the same we made in Resolver. We're just fetching the commerce prices by SKU from the Adobe Commerce Optimizer at this point, which is just a fetch request to the merchandising API I showed. And then when we're receiving the price by this SKU, we doing the replacement. And replacement here is within the data which Observer expect, which is Adobe Commerce Observer expect. So we're replacing the value of data product price with a price we receive from Adobe Commerce Optimizer, returning it back, and then when Magento or Adobe Commerce placing the product into the shopping cart, it's using already the new price instead of what it has in a database, and it uses it always. So you cannot bypass it from the outside. And if you go to our, I hit here again, to the storefront, and we will try to add the product to the shopping cart. It's have to appear. It's can be quite slow here. It will appear here with the same price, and then you already can check out with this product again with price delivered from the Adobe Commerce Optimizer. And Let me think. No, I guess that's it. I guess that's all from my side. Thanks a lot. And yeah, if there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you very much for the demo. I think we clearly saw how we can build integrations, and there were a couple of questions in the chat as well. I think we almost answered every question as far as I see, and there's only one left. And to be honest, I don't know exactly. The question was about custom options. How are they handled between ACO, commerce, and catalog service? Christian, do you know?
There was a question about how can we connect Adobe Commerce as a cloud service in ACO. Then there's an adapter that syncs some data from one side to the other. I have no clue how that is handling custom options, but I guess it's it's currently not their custom options. I just know this attributes, but it's flexible, so you can omit or add options as attributes.
Yeah.
But the concept of custom options.
Adobe Commerce product typing is not anymore. Sorry, no, Adobe Commerce Optimizer product typing is not anymore matching to the Adobe Commerce because it has another way of saving data and another patterns of the product building. So if I quickly check the APIs itself, there are no such term as custom option even exists in Adobe Commerce Optimizer itself. Yeah.
All right. So any questions from your side?
One addition, there's also the idea of having these product layers where you can bring in a bit more dynamic in the product data. The idea is that you can pass maybe an HTTP header, and then you can overwrite everything in your ingested data on product level. That we could check if that helps to provide maybe some flexibility like the custom options by using this data layer, but I'm not sure if it's 100% matching the concept of the custom options.
Yeah, we have to check it out, I think. I mean, you shared the link to the connector, right?
Yeah.
You have to go through it and see how it's intended, to be honest. Just scrolling through it, but I can't find it.
I dropped a small link, which may be worth to have a look. I haven't tried it, but there is a product view input option for input options, literally. So when you look at the data, there really looks like just a standard custom options for the products. So I believe that's something which is replacing the Adobe Commerce custom option in ACO.
Mm-hmm. There's another question. Does the Commerce Integration Starter Kit replace AEM pre-render? Who knows the answer of
It's basically two different elements. No, in Commerce Integration Starter Kit, it's more about connecting two systems together, which has nothing to do with, let's say, pre-rendering the IEM. I mean, I used this extension sometime in the past, and it's like officially still there. It's not moved anywhere. But purpose of integration starter kit is a bit different one.
In starter kit, I have one question. So, is there any way, assume 20 website, 20 multi-site, we can build it in the starter kit? Is possible or not? etc.?
You mean to build a website, a whole website with it?
Yeah, for example, you see like Adobe Native has a multi-set of like more languages, more regions, everything is there. So using App Builder, is that possible or not? Because App Builder has action limitations as native, because more than some 30-40 actions we can't do at a time. So what is how we can handle like multiple sites for assume Nike or some kind of a big brand which is coming with 20 region sites, how it is possible in App Builder?
I mean, let me check a link for it. There is something which I can show you, which is called App Management. I think it should be this one. Let me share my screen. Yeah, this one. And I also paste the link here in the chat. So basically, with the Integration Starter Kit, it's just a blueprint. Like I showed you on the slide here, it gives you some kind of steps where you can implement the last piece of code in every step to connect both systems. But everything around it, for example, to configure or to register your events and webhooks and so on, is pretty much out of the box. There are some scripts contained in this Integration Starter Kit which you can run to register your new integration to the commerce system, for example, right? If you want to handle different websites and stores, that's at least how I understood your question, if you have 20 different websites and so on. It depends on your integration, right? An ERP system, for example, in my opinion, can handle all 20 websites, though that means there's one integration between the ERP and the 20 websites. But of course, maybe you need a different configuration for every website. And therefore, you can also have the app management feature, which basically allows the shop manager here to have a dashboard, right? And there you see every app from App Builder installed, and you can click on configure here. And once you click on configure, let me check if you see a screenshot. You should be able to, business configuration, this is it, to configure your app, meaning that this is an example. You can click here on Manage Scopes, and there you have the global scope, which is quite familiar, right? And then you can change on a different website, one of your 20 websites, for example, and you can configure a different configuration for it here, and then click on Save. Not sure if this was really your question, or maybe I misunderstood it.
Yeah, question is this one, but I am not sure like this is possible or not. I didn't try it. Thanks for the information. But one small doubt: when we do AIO app deploy, all these 20 website actions will be deployed, or is there any way we can deploy specific? For example, UST one region only we can deploy. Is that possible?
Deploying the app for only one website, you mean?
Yeah.
It's actually independent, because App Builder is not aware of your websites, because the websites are in the ACCS system, right, running in the cloud, and App Builder is just running on its own. And like Alex showed you before, you can go there and configure a webhook which calls the webhook in your App Builder app, for example. And if you do not want to have it for a specific website, you shouldn't register it, right?
Some addition here. Technically, an App Builder app is kind of microservice, but there is a connection between in the config management where you can sync your scopes, and scope means website store view configuration can be synced to App Builder, so you should see the same store views there. But you can also create your own scopes in your App Builder app, completely separated. So if your app is not relying on this store views of ACCS, then you can have your own scopes there. But there are some hooks where you can sync your stores to the app builder app as a scope.
And maybe a very small letter from my side, because related to the question you asked about is that when you build an Adobe Builder application, you have to be basically your website agnostic. You don't care how many websites you have. There are no direct connection to Adobe Commerce. You just provide in the actions which hold the business logic. Like you said, like for example, big brand. For sure, you will then have maybe more builder applications. It's not always that you have one per project. It can be 20 per project. Each of them has some business logic inside, an action built especially for some particular use cases. But they shall not depend on how many websites you have, for example. They mostly have to be actions which receive the metadata. They have to process or do something with them and give you the output back. So I hope it's make it a bit more clear.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? I just double checked the chat again. There is no new question, I think. Any feedback for us? Any idea which you want to have a more detailed look in the next session, for example? And yeah, you can also email us or if you want, if you have any idea, or put it in the survey afterwards so we can show you something specific which you want to see, of course, as well. All right. Then I would say this is pretty much it. Thank you for attending this session. It was really a lot of fun with you guys. Someone said remote debugging with ACCS. Okay, let's note this for the next session. And if you have any feedback idea, let us know in the survey afterwards. And thank you very much. See you next time. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Alex.